Kia ora, Hues of Green whānau, no mai ki te kāinga o Hues of Green, me te Cannabis Closet. Welcome to Hues of Green and the Cannabis Closet. Back here with the brother Grayson, one of the founders of Hues of Green, and here today to tell us a little bit about himself. So for you people watching at home, Grayson here, he's been brought in as our connector. Grayson is a man about town. If you don't know that about him, you soon will. Has hands and friends in many places, and absolutely really helped us in our journey so far in bringing people from various parts of Christchurch, various aspects of the cannabis, and not just the cannabis community, but all sorts, the hospitality community, to help us sort of achieve our goals and moving forward. So we're bloody stoked to have Grayson here helping us out and being a great people person that he is. We just wanted to get to know a little bit about the man himself today. So kia ora, bro. Welcome to the Cannabis Closet.
Thank you.
And let's just jump straight into things, man. First of all, just tell us a little bit about your introduction and experience with cannabis.
Yeah, cool. Okay. So I guess for me, cannabis has somewhat always been present in my life because my mum has smoked it for as long as I have known. But she, in the early days, it was also with tobacco, so there was some quite distinctive smells and differences in how my body naturally reacted, even though it was kept far from me. Some of those smells were obviously different. One's was a bit more toxic, and I definitely didn't like it whatsoever. And one, well, again, was smoke, and I wasn't a fan of it, but it was I guess somewhat more palatable. So that was sort of my early introduction. But I remember particularly those moments being surrounded by moments of music and coming together of people. A good example was Ducks, the original Ducks at the old Arts Centre. Shout out to Ducks, great establishment. And on a Sunday they would have bands, and bands would be coming and playing, and it was just a good, almost a creative space. Sure. And that was sort of my first early associations. Until I guess I came to high school, when I first tried it myself in our sort of mid-teens, and again those memories kind of followed suit when I remember moments where we would occasionally smoke and stuff, and it was summertime, generally out, might be jumping in off a waterfall into some water or something like that, having fun, but being safe and keeping pretty chill about our experiences and our use of it. Yeah. And then more recent times, I guess now I've been on quite a journey of self-discovery, physically and mentally, over the last 10 years, I guess, or so, and that's where it's become more of a greater medical understanding of it, and the effects it can have on the body as well.
So previously, like you're associating, your young associations, you're thinking, you smell this smell that you're unfamiliar with, you can link it to like community vibe and music going on at the Duck Central, and then your early experiences, you were sort of feeling a bit of the same thing. It created community with your mates. I do recall a few times, same thing as you say, maybe be at a beach or doing a rock jump. There's always some music going. So it had sort of a fairly like a positive experience for you. Yeah, you didn't have like really any seriously negative thoughts about it at that time.
No, that's exactly right. There was no I guess probably the most negative thing back then would be potentially when we were looking to get it. And that's really it. That was really the biggest question mark over. Oh, okay, we do want to go and explore and try this, but we weren't too sure about it.
And we're some of the lucky ones, right? I know we had a couple of sources, very safe sources, but it wasn't always the case. And as you say, trying to get it sometimes meant going to an unsavoury location, right?
Yep, that's exactly right. And there were, we unfortunately didn't have anyone affected with any horror stories or such, but there were still the moments being like, oh, bro,
shit, that's dodgy.
Like there's some pretty rough looking characters in there, and I think there was more going on, but we were naive about that back then, and it just
so that sort of leads us perfectly into the next question: is your thoughts on the referendum results that have just gone through, right? Because one of the big things for me was always about, can we protect future generations having to go through those dodgy experiences that we went through? So what do you think about everything that's sort of been happening this last few weeks?
Oh, I mean, my thoughts is, and most of you listening to this will understand my thoughts on it, but it's, it was a disappointment as such, but it did unify people in a way, and and bring together discussion which needed to happen. And so although we haven't got the result we want, I think it's definitely opened the door for, you know, at least hopefully decriminalisation, because that's definitely one we all want, to just take away some of that stigma within the community for people. I think that things are heading in the right direction.
Sure.
Maybe not as fast as some people would like it, but it is, and it started with this referendum.
And like that's a big step, right? Like because we haven't gone through the baby steps of maybe going to decriminalisation first, and then to we've jumped into a referendum straight to legalisation, right? So it would be pretty hard, I would think, for our leaders to ignore 48.4% of the country at this point and continue with the status quo as it is, and that would mean accepting that the current laws are functional, which we all very well know they're not functional, right?
Yeah, true, and you're exactly right. I think it's too many people have acknowledged that the presence of cannabis in their lives for the government not to respond in some shape or form.
Sure.
Whether it's bringing out more education about even CBD products, which it's available as a medicinal purpose, but something like this should be over the counter, affordable enough to be like a multivitamin,
like a supplement multivitamin, something that because we do know it's currently extremely expensive, exorbitantly expensive, and you have to get prescribed by your doctor, and not all of the doctors are yet educated on the subject and feel comfortable giving those prescriptions. So it again leads us perfectly into the next question, which we'll round it off. We'll round off our getting to know Grayson section with this one. But what does cannabis law, or even drug law in general, look like to you in the perfect world? So say we've got President Grayson, he's the leader of the free world of New Zealand, let's call it. What does drug law look like to you, mate?
I think it looks like something where the community is far more accepting of the fact that people use drugs.
Right.
I had a conversation with a friend literally last week, and said to me that she has a 16-year-old niece,
right,
who she did this bit of the driving around towards a few parties and just did the auntie thing.
Sure.
Drove them around a few places and looked after them, made sure they got from A to B, and she reflected on some of the culture, and she actually mentioned that they were all into doing that. They were doing drugs at 16.
Wow.
And in particular, she mentioned ketamine, which is a very heavy. Well, it's a horse tranquilizer.
Fuck.
And so that was quite scary.
Eye-opening, I bet.
Eye-opening in that sense to hear that. So I think with that, we need to acknowledge that, and we need to let people who do go down that path and want to experiment, if they're going to, they're going to.
Yeah.
Just like if people want to smoke cannabis
right now. Well, clearly the current laws are not stopping them getting their drugs, right?
Exactly. So we need to acknowledge that, so that people people feel like accepted, in that when that goes too far, that they have a place of comfort and an open arm sort of approach to, hey, I've taken too many drugs, or I feel down because I've abused this, things have started to go off the rails. So acceptance in the community about there is actually a drug problem to a degree, especially with our youth and stuff like that. But then actually experimenting and understanding some of these drugs that are getting abused a lot more, and how their potential application can be for therapeutic benefits, such as MDMA, but particularly psychedelics, such as psilocybin, and LSD has been shown to in microdosing with potentially treating like PTSD and stuff like that.
Yes.
So I guess it kind of needs to be shaken up quite significantly, and it starts with understanding, but it starts with education and that research, and letting the people who want to do this, who want to look at changing views, pushing the boundaries, shaking things up a bit, to have access to do that, and to support that, because they're the ones who we'll turn to if something goes seriously wrong, or someone has a psychotic episode from something and there hasn't been a book written on it, but they might turn to the person who has actually been doing current research on it.
Right. Great point, mate, because what it just sounds like is is education and research as much as anything. And clearly, the more we know about something, the better we can understand it and better we can come up with treatments and solutions to drug problems, you know, because we all know people who are recreational drug users who are absolutely fine with it, but then others who push it too far, right? So what you're saying, mate, it makes perfect sense, man. So that's mint, bro, and thanks for sharing your thoughts. I mean, I know most of the stuff about you, but it's for the people at home getting to know Grayson. So thanks for tuning in, guys. This is the Cannabis Closet. We will be bringing more of this at you, and if you have any questions about anything cannabis related that you'd like us to address on the show, guests you'd maybe perhaps want to see, people you'd want to talk to or hear from, send us a message, slide into our DMs, and we'd love to hear from you. So once again, thanks for supporting, guys, and that's Cannabis Closet out.
Cheers, team. See you later.